Version 1.0.12 of MegaBonk is out, and as you can see, we have a little TLDR here, but I'm going to go more in depth with it. We have Ved apologizing for the leaderboards being broken, but he says they should be fixed. So let's go ahead and get started. So we have a changelog for the final swarm, and he describes the current meta as, wearing sunglasses and watching the slideshow / light show, which is, of course, all the weapons going off, especially with the black hole. And he says this was never intended. So he apparently has fixed it so that the final swarm is harder to survive, and the Joe's Dagger black hole combo won't really save us anymore. Probably. But he probably fixed it. So new ghosts finally appear in the final swarm. It's pretty cool. They added a new theme, which is Mega Chad's theme, so that's pretty cool that they're adding new music continuously. Optimized the FPS with the Dexecutioner and black hole combo, which is pretty cool, I guess, if you're still going to go for that strategy. Random fix where players lost their saves if their games crashed, which is pretty good. Now onto the bugs. Spaceman's passive apparently didn't work before. Now it works and gives proper XP increase per level. There was also a bug where the black hole hitboxes were 10 times the size of the actual projectile. So apparently, again, that was not intended at all. Another bug where Spiky Shield didn't stack correctly. So that's good, because if you're going for the Thorns challenge to get the Cactus item, now it's even easier, I guess. Added a max duration to weapons so that they don't stop shooting once you hit the projectile limit. So an example would be the sword projectile was being affected by duration, even though it was only ever active for 1 second. But too much duration made it active for much longer, which means the cap was being filled with empty projectiles. Weapons like the Dexecutioner, Axe, Sword are now working properly and are properly shooting their projectiles even with higher duration. So this is a buff, as it says, for every single weapon. And that's pretty cool. I like that. I didn't even know that was a problem before, and now it's a problem that apparently got fixed. Now, as for balancing, the Chaos Tome now gives 50% better rewards. I remember leveling up a ton with the Chaos Tome, and I tried it out a couple of times. It really was random, and it just was not worth it at all. I'm glad we're getting better rewards out of it because of the randomness. Maybe it could be viable in some scenarios, or at least for, fun runs that you're going to have. Roly bones are now slower on the desert. Well, they only spawn in the desert, but they're the little circular spheric bones that spin, and they're so fucking fast. I realized how fast they were when I was playing when I was trying to get the cactus challenge, and I had to kill enemies with thorns, and whenever they would spawn in, they would just like push my character essentially because of how fast they were. The black hole gets a buff in general and gets an increased size, but at the same time it gets a nerf because its proc coefficient's been reduced. So to match similar weapons, so it's just matching other stuff. It's not going above and beyond. So as it says here, it's used for weapons like moldy cheese or spicy meatball, meaning it's just how items or random stuff will proc off of it, which will then in turn activate it or not. So like a 40% chance to poison an enemy, it's been reduced. The odds have been reduced for the black hole, essentially. Bush's passive has been, buffed a bit because its cooldown has been reduced by 0.4 seconds per 10 levels, which is pretty cool. Now here's the big one. Joe's Dagger now has a max damage increase cap of 200 per minute. So if you have 10 daggers, there's a max of 2000 damage per minute. So essentially, this whole thing means that early on, it won't change much for the Joe's Daggers that you collect. But now, late game, it's not going to be the most viable option out there. Because before, as you can see here, it says before you could get like 20,000 damage in 10 seconds. Which, as he says, nothing else in the game can test. But now that has changed up because everyone was doing the Joe's Dagger strategy. I have a whole guide for the meta build where you would ban every legendary you could just so you could keep getting Joe's Daggers. But glad to see that's changed. I like that. The XP tome has gotten a nerf. And Ved says here that some people might hate it and you could just revert it back next week. But just to try it out, I think it's good. Like I said, I like to see the meta get switched up a lot. I like to see a variety of builds. So anything to help change the XP luck cursed meta is amazing in my eyes. And of course, in the TLDR it said, but now we see it again. Leaderboards have been fixed. He removed the all leaderboards button until he does more stuff like character specific boards. So that's pretty cool. I'd like to see that. Set up a list of known cheaters that are banned globally that will never show up again once caught. Ooh. So if you're cheating in the game, better watch out. He says he's clapping your cheeks back to the Shadow Realm. And then lastly, we get to the future updates, stuff that he's working on. Opacity setting for projectiles and particles, which basically would mean like, you know, being able to see more or less of the particles or projectiles, making them more clear, I guess, so they don't lag a computer. A full-size map with a fog of war so you can see where you've been would be incredibly helpful. Could have used that when I was doing all the charge shrines. More information when hovering, like weapon stats, etc. That'd be nice just for people who like to pay attention to that sort of stuff or just keep track of it. Pinning / tracking quest in game when paused. Very cool here. Wouldn't have to use Steam achievements. Could have just looked at that. And this is the big one. He says after he's done with, you know, all the stuff above that he's mentioned, he's going to work on multiplayer, which is extremely cool. And more maps, items, characters, and weapons, which of course, I mean, to be expected. I'd love that. I'd even love like a tier 4 or 5. Like if we could get more tiers, that'd be pretty cool. And honestly, characters, weapons, I feel like it's all tomes maybe. I don't know. It's just anything would be cool, but he asked what we'd like to see, and then people comment down in the Steam forum if they want. But yeah, those are pretty cool. A nice little patch note right there. Really enjoyed it. Like what I'm seeing, and I'm looking forward to the future updates.